There, finally. Only 22 minutes late. Worst things have happened in the history of forever, I suppose. Um, Hello, Enviroboy. This is my channel, and the more observant and astute of viewers will probably notice that my setup here looks just a little different. I rearranged a lot of my furniture this weekend. Things were just kind of feeling a little claustrophobic in my apartment, the way it was set up, especially as it's getting darker and darker and harder for me to get any appreciable amount of natural light in my life as we're diving into winter around here. And well, it's only fall right now, but you know what I'm saying. The weather is kind of at that stage now where it will be continually getting darker earlier and staying darker longer in the mornings. So and the way I had been set up previously is I was tucked in a corner that was well away from any sort of window. So I was feeling very claustrophobic. Oh, there's a cat in the background. You can still kind of see her as she's wandering between her little sleep spots in the background. But yeah, I was feeling a little claustrophobic, so I had some friends over. We moved furniture a little bit, so now you guys can't see it because the camera is facing this way, but right there is my sliding glass door in my apartment. So I can just look right out there, see into my balcony where I got the bird feeder hanging up. So I can just kind of fill that, see a little bit of nature out there because there's a lot of big trees right outside my apartment. Kind of see that. It's another rainy day, as is going to be the case for like the next month and a half, because that's just what the weather does around here this time of year. But it's a much more pleasant setup in general as far as the furniture goes. So I'm looking forward to it. Oh yeah, you can still kind of see the. Just so you can see, yes, it is the kitty. There's the kitty as I accidentally bonk my desk and make the monitor and the camera wiggle and waggle around. I've still got some fine tuning and tweaking to really nail down with this setup, just because you know how it goes. You take everything apart to move your desk around or whatever, and then you put it all back in place, and it's never in exactly the same place. The light coming from the lamps and stuff that I use is just a little bit different. So I'm not sure how I feel about. You can kind of see right there, right above the lamp. That light isn't actually coming from the lamp. That light's coming from my LED lights that I have around. I'm not sure how I like that little glow sitting back there. So still some fine tuning to go through to make sure this is exactly a good setup for streaming. But as far as a good setup for furniture and living in my home, it is a much needed refreshing change of pace, and I'm quite happy about it. So, but that's part of why I'm starting up so late, is because I sat down, started setting everything up, and then I realized it's like, oh, wait a minute, I haven't really set up to make sure my webcam was set up how I needed it. I need to make sure all my cords can reach properly from where they are, because I put my computer at a different place on my desk than where it was beforehand. Beforehand, I had my computer sitting on like a plank below underneath the desk, but with the rearrangement of things, I've just been able to adjust some things, so I actually have room on top of my desk for the computer, so that way it can be up and get a bit more fresh air, which is nice for the fans and everything. But yeah, so it's like the cords are reaching in different places, and it's just yeah, you think it's going to be an easy thing just to pluck up the furniture and just kind of, take it from over here and move it over there, put it down, and everything's good to go. But it's just never quite that simple, is it? Never really is. But hey, that's okay. We got through it. We got everything just fine. Irritated my downstairs neighbor by moving furniture. That was fun. It's good. It's good stuff. Good stuff. And like I say, the important thing is everything kind of feels fresh and pleasant to me, which is I don't know. I find there to be value in that. I'm not the kind of person who rearranges the furniture every 2 or 3 months. Some people really like to just like adjust where seats and stuff are homes and everything like that. I have some friends that will change their seating arrangements in their living room, like where the couches and the recliners and all that stuff. They'll change up the order of those like 2 or 3 times a year. They'll do that. I'm more so the type to let it go for 2 to 4 years before I worry about readjusting things. But regardless of how often you do it, I think there's something, like I say, nice and refreshing about doing it. It just kind of helps you. It helps the space around you feel new and fresh and interesting and exciting again, compared to when it's, always the same thing. So, yeah, it's good. It's good. But, okay, that's what's going on in my life, and it's been a few minutes, so anyone who was going to try and be here right when we started hopefully has had time to come in. So let's go ahead and get ourselves over, and let's do some writing. Let's do some writing. I'm been looking kind of forward to getting here and just sitting down and doing a little bit of work. This is my first time. I mean, it's the first writing stream sitting at this new place, and I did do some writing in this new setup over the weekend, and it's actually kind of nice because the way I rearrange things, I have a bit more open space, which doesn't seem like it would be a big deal since everything is on the computer screen, but there's something nice about having a fresh, big, open workspace, even if all you're putting there is your keyboard, right? It just feels like, I don't know, it's like the desk space is almost where my brain can stretch its legs, right? And you just got a little bit of room to stretch out, and it feels nice and refreshing. So I'm kind of excited to get some work done on our campaign here in this fresh, exciting new environment. Let me see here. Last time, what had we been working on last time? I gotta rearrange these so that's more enjoyable to me. We finally got to a point, right, where we had our layout how I liked it. We still have to do that floor, but that's okay. We'll, when we get there. One thing at a time. For now, we're working on this little region here. And I feel like I remember we had just finished working on an enchantment token that we kind of made. And one thing that I do want to do really quickly, no, not artifacts, magic. I want to just quickly copy a link to this page. And then let's go back here. Spell Shield of Faith, and I'm going to just put that in parentheses there because I want that hyperlink there, but I want us to know that we're looking for our Shield of Faith. And just for this little bit, I don't want to create a whole extra page, right? I don't want each of these to have its own whole page. Maybe someday if I decide there's more that I want to do with spells and making more spells, I might add more. But since we just have the one page for all the imbibements, imbuing things with other things and stuff like that, I just kind of keeps it a little less cluttered in my organizational system to have it this way. So, at any rate, I think that's good. But I don't think we actually laid out everything that we're going to see in this area of the map yet. I think we still have to actually decorate here. Yeah, there's definitely nothing here, and there's a few things we can add here. So, oh, you know what? There's one thing that I'm just now realizing I have not done. I have not put in our lighting in our rooms here. But I want to just do it like this, and honestly this is going to be pretty dark for a lot of players, but I'm okay with that. And then and these will just always be open when we can actually get to our online system, right? Because it's treating these like doorways, and that's why the light isn't bleeding through. But if we put them open, the light will bleed through, and I like that effect for these rather than providing each of them with their own light. I mean, I could, just to make sure it happens, put that right there, but I prefer the light bleeding in. These are areas that are meant to be dark. They're spaces between walls. Right? These are not going to be wide open areas. So I want to go ahead and just leave it like that. And I'll just manually make sure these archways are always open for players when we actually get to it. So that's all we need to do for that. Anyway, let me remind myself exactly how we describe this. As you peer through the crack in the wall, you find yourself looking at an interior space that someone of your size could walk through. Though the giants that built this place probably don't think twice. Wait, hold on, there's another one. Man, I left all kinds of silly typos in here. Last time, just making me look like an amateur, which I am, but it doesn't mean I want to advertise that. Alright, let's see here. Think twice about a space this narrow. As you look inside, tucked in the corner of this wall, you see a collection of eyes all piled on top of one another. It appears to have... It's a kind of a confusing thing. People are gonna think there's a pile of eyeballs. See, say multiple pairs of eyes, all stacked on top of one another. Stacked, we'll say, over top of one another. And I think that's a bit less confusing. Upon rereading it, the way I had it there felt like I was describing a very Halloween-y, would you like a bowl of eyeballs, and it's peeled grapes or whatever, you know what I mean? That would actually be kind of a fun thing to throw at players. Throw like a haunted house. That'd kind of be a fun twist, wouldn't it? Like, tell my players, do like a Halloween one-shot. Oh man, this is actually turning into an idea. Do a Halloween one-shot. And you tell your players, hey, I've got a haunted house one-shot. And all it is like a real-world style haunted house where it's just like people in rubber masks making really loud noise the whole time. And it's like their characters are going through and just like murdering a bunch of civilians or something like that. And they have to go through all of like those types of spooky gaffes and gags. That would actually be really funny. Maybe, I don't think I'll be able to get that done this year, but maybe in future years I can just write a little one-shot. It's like a good 4-hour adventure that does that. That'd be really fun. Anyway, it appears you have disturbed a nest of weasels living in this wall, and they don't appear happy about having had their naps disrupted. Okay, so just in one of the corners we'll put a big pile of weasels. I'm thinking if we put the weasels right here, that'll guarantee that no matter which angle they come in, they see it. Because if they go in and then immediately go there, it would make sense for them to not see a bunch of weasels that are over there. And I feel like being mean and making sure that they encounter them, so we're going to do it. We're going to do it that way. Let's see if I do... Oh, no, it's not going to do that. What about, like, farm or barn or something? Barrel bed. I'm trying to look for, like, straw. There's statue, storage, structure. Okay, let's just search for it here. Straw. Oh, what about hay? There we go, that works. Just give them like a little nest bedding. Let's see, let's unsnap this. So you can do that, and what we can do is I'm going to put this as under. And so you just kind of do a little bits kind of peeking out here just to make it seem a little more scraggly and haphazard. If we just change up the angle a little bit. There we go. That looks pretty good. Good enough for what we're trying to do. Do we have spider webs here? Vines, water, window, and do they have spooky? No, they have skeletons, and those are spooky, but they don't actually have spooky. Let me do just web. There we go, yeah. Alright, and we'll just, because we're in a tight, narrow space, we'll go ahead and just add in some spider webs and stuff. It's unreasonable to think that there wouldn't be a whole cacophony of spider webs tucked in here. Hey, look at this. This is like the perfect size and shape to just like be tucked in that corner like that. Ooh, that's a little bigger than we're looking for here. If we just kind of this and make it kind of complex in general. That kind of adds some interest. Oops, some interest to it. Do that. And put one more in like this corner over here. So if we do that and then grab one of like these. Oh, here we go. Check this out. Put that just like right here. Alright, that looks pretty good. Oh, I kind of want to use this one somehow. This one's just a really cool shape. Oh, here we go. Wait. If we do it like that, there we go. So it's like right upon the entrance there. See it? There we go. Looks pretty good. That's pretty spiderwebby. We also need to just add our enchantment token. And I usually like to throw it like discarded in there. Did I describe exactly where it was? Lying among the remains of the weasel nest, you find what looks to be some sort of small coin. Okay, so we're going to put it there in that same area over there. So let's do coin. Why? Okay, let's try gold maybe. There it is. And then my go-to trick is always to like have this and then just hold on a second. We need to like really zoom in here to get this just right. Look at this. Look at that. Everything except for one little coin. Boop. Just hidden right in there. So it's visually there. They'll never realize that's what it is, but it's visually there. I don't know why it matters to me to have like the one coin be visible on the map for all of these. I don't know why I care, but I do, and so I make sure it's like that every time. It's kind of silly, but I don't know. I guess it's like, I guess if I were to really try and analyze why I like doing that, it's because it's like it's one of those things that people always say. It's like, but I'll know that it's there, and it'll make me happy knowing that it's there. And sometimes that's reason enough to do something, is because you'll know that that thing has been done, and it will make you happy. And there's no reason for me to not make myself a little happy in a situation like this. So it'll work just fine. Okay, so there's that area right there. That's perfect. That's perfect, just like that. So then our next one is going to be this space over here. And I believe we already determined what goes in there. We gotta somehow come up with a puzzle. And there'll be some money in there. There's gonna be some money at stake. I almost want to do something along the lines of like, there's a hidden, like hidden in the stones or something like that, or some sort of message that if players have good enough perception, they can see the message, and then like their characters can see that there's a message there, but it's somehow like encrypted or whatever. You know, in some way, shape, or form, it's not immediately clear what this message is trying to say. So then players can try and do just their, try and like figure out the riddle on their own. And then if that doesn't work, they can just do their like intelligence checks or whatever to figure it out. And then use that to, and like have that riddle be about like, there's a stone. Excuse me. There's a stone in the wall here that can be wedged loose, and inside of it is, you know, a certain something, or maybe there's like a floor stone that can be lifted up and it's been like dug out underneath, and you can find like a pack that some adventurer put there. I feel like that'd be pretty interesting. I actually like that. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. Puzzle. So I know what's going on here. When players enter, we'll say a passive perception above. What did we set our medium to? Above an 11. That's perfectly achievable by these guys. When players enter, passive perception above 11 allows player to notice something funny about the stones on the inside wall. So there's something that I've been kind of toying with here, in some of my other writing projects that I'm working on, is utilizing some different colored text to clarify when it's like something to read out loud and when it's something for the DM. And I'm thinking red is a good one, like red isn't stop, don't read this out loud. And that's sort of my cue that like, hey, this is the DM note, this is not to be read aloud. Just that way it's a bit easier. So I think I'm gonna start doing that moving forward. I'm not gonna stress about going back and trying to figure out and redo it, because I would have to reread everything, and I don't have time to do that outside of stream. And inside of stream, that would be like, I'm all for meticulously doing things properly, but boy, that would be some uninteresting content right there. So I'm not gonna worry about doing it that way, but I've been thinking about that. I'm gonna start doing that moving forward, and then we can just go back to the automatic black here. So when players enter, passive perception above 11 allows player to notice something funny about the stones on the wall. Let's see here. Along the interior wall, you notice a small arrow. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. A lot of yawns going on. Sleepy, stormy afternoon type of day here. I promise I'm happy to be here. It's just a lethargic sort of day. Lethargic sort of day, and had some intense sparring over the weekend, so my body's still a little in recuperation mode from all that. It was a good sparring session. I had a lot of fun. Helped a lot of new guys work on some stuff that they can be thinking about with their games moving forward. So much fun, but oh my gosh, I got hit a lot. My body is like, why do you subject us to this? Why do you do this? And my brain's like, because we're tough. It's not exactly that way, but you know, I'm trying to set up a narrative here. Right, along the interior wall, you notice a small arrow pointing one way. Actually, I'm not even gonna say pointing one way. You notice a small arrow painted on a stone with some sort of sap. So it's like it's painted on, but they use something subtle, like there's like some sort of sap. And I'm almost thinking more like if you had an unfinished wall of wood and then they were to just do an arrow in lacquer, right? So that's like that arrow stands out, but it's like not painted on per se. I'm kind of thinking that same effect just on the stone wall. Let's see here. If you follow the arrows, they take you along the wall until you find yourself in a place where the nearest arrow points down. And then what we'll do now is I'm going to add another little red text portion here and say, have players make a check. I'm just going to say a relevant. Wow, I just butchered that. Relevant. There it is. Players make a relevant check. Let me see. We're going to put this one at 12. Make it difficult for them to find. Let's see here. See 12 here. Check to see if they understand what the arrow is suggesting. It's a pretty easy puzzle, all things considered, but you know, not all of them are going to be the infinity puzzle or whatever it was called at the end of Da Vinci Code, where it's like some weird, convoluted, complex thing that you have to know 500 years worth of biblical history and then be able to handle little things. not all going to be that hard. He's like a level 20 intelligent character of some sort. I don't know. What would he be? Rogue, maybe? Because he just sneaks around a lot? Whatever. It's a weird tangent to be on. It's a weird tangent that no one cares about, not even me to a certain degree. But yeah, let's see here. Arrow suggesting, and then we'll automatic again. You notice that one stone on the floor beneath you is loose. Hey, Blind Bandit, how's it going? Good to see you here. So you notice that one stone on the floor beneath you is loose. If you pry the stone up, you find what appears to be a very old pack that was likely... Hey, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Appreciate you being here, Blind Bandit. Let's see here. Got so excited I lost my train of thought. If you pry the stone up, you find what appears to be a very old pack that was likely hidden here long ago. Inside the pack, you find mostly ruined survival gear that time has rendered useless. Let me see here. Yeah. But there is a coin pouch with a relatively large stash of money in it. The coins aren't familiar, but gold is gold. Boom, there we go. That just gives them a little something there, and then so the reward for this room was the money. That's kind of why I went ahead and described it here. So we'll put money for our what's happening here? Why am I struggling here? Boy, oh boy. Yeah, I am working on a dungeon. It's just one dungeon that's part of a larger project to write an entire campaign. And so we're still kind of in the earlier stages as far as dungeons go, but we put a lot of work into the campaign. I can pull up and show you. This is our region map. It's still kind of empty. We're working on. There's plenty of stuff that will end up filling this area. Right now, we are working on this area right in here. Which is just one of roughly 5 legs of the journey that our players will end up being on. So yeah, that's what we're working on right now. It's good stuff. It's fun stuff. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. But yeah, we're working on a dungeon right now that is the players have kind of been in and among giants, and all with the intention of finding something that has been hidden within these within this sort of like extended giant society that exists in the mountains. And so they're going to be searching through, and we're kind of making a shrine right now that serves as the dungeon. That there aren't any giants in presently, but that means a lot of wildlife is enjoying the space, so there's still plenty of danger for them. And they're eventually going to need to search through this place and find a hidden artifact that someone else came in and hid in this giant thing, because they were like, I don't want anyone to get this artifact, and I doubt anyone will have any interest in searching through a giant community, so we'll just hide it here. And that's why it's there. And for the first time in like thousands of years, someone, our players will presumably, if they've answered the call to adventure, for the first time in centuries, someone is interested enough to search through a giant society to try and find stuff. So yeah, I love world building too. I've been a world builder far longer even than I played D&D. It was just something that I did for fun, creative writing all the way back in grade school, and you know, then I found D&D, and I was like, oh wow, this just like really plays into each other really well. So, does that mean the coins in the pack are huge? No, no. The Giants, they don't really use money. They don't really do economy. The Giants, because this is all homebrew. This is all a homebrew world, using, you know, rules as written lore as a springboard, but then taking a lot of liberties to just kind of create whatever I feel like. To be perfectly honest, so the Giants, they don't really care about money or coins or anything like that. Their economy is me kill monster, me eat it, me share if I feel like it, and that's the extent of it. But the Giants aren't the only creatures that exist in these mountains historically or at present, and so sometimes other travelers will come in here, find the shrine, which is not regularly populated by Giants. It's kind of off to the side. Giants will make a pilgrimage there every time their leader decides we must make sacrifice. So there's kind of goodies to be hidden here because, you know, humans and dwarves and other, you know, beings, humanoids traveling through the mountains will also use the shrine for shelter, much the same as all of the giant mountain goats and elks and giant weasels and stuff that the players are going to be encountering in this dungeon are. So it would be kind of funny though if they found gold coins just like the size of dinner plates and were like, well, I know this is worth a lot, but I don't know how on earth I'm supposed to use this. You find one gold piece. It's the size of your torso, but it is only one gold piece. That would actually be kind of funny. I'll have to use that at some point in time. So anywho, so they just find a pouch of like gold coins, and so it's like with this one, the situation is I'm gonna have it be, because the way the world works, this homebrew world is, it's a post-calamity type of world, post-Armageddon type of world, just like a D&D style of it. So a couple thousand years ago, things kind of went haywire, and much of the world was sort of claimed by wild magic in essence, because all the different realms were kind of like through magical happenstance forced to intermingle, which caused a lot of really dangerous and crazy, nasty beasts and stuff to roam the land. So, like, humanoid, you know, civilized society only exists in roughly 10 cities around here, and the rest of it has just kind of been left to the wilds. And so when players encounter things, it's pretty much that, like, the adventures take place out in the wilds. Like, players are basically some form of treasure hunter, you know, going out and doing stuff out in the world. Hey, Danny, how's it going? They're doing stuff out in this dangerous world, and so whenever they encounter things that are of a more civilized nature, it's usually very ancient and forgotten. Hey, any amount of time you spend hanging out, I appreciate you being here. No problem at all there. No problem at all there. But yeah, so that's kind of the nature. So that's why when I say, you know, they find coins, they find this ancient pack, it's like it was probably hidden there a couple thousand years ago by some mountaineering dwarf who comes from the dwarven city that was living underneath, that exists underneath these mountains. And so they were probably there and were like, hey, I don't want to carry all this while I go do something else in the mountains, and then died and never got it back or something. You know, who knows what it is. Lost to time, really. It'd be kind of a fun Easter egg. Maybe somewhere else in this dungeon I'll just put like a dwarf skeleton and let the players put 2 and 2 together if they feel like it. Not say anything explicitly, but it's like, there he is. Yeah, he fell. He broke his leg. It's like show like a broken leg or something like that, so he couldn't walk and leave, and he just died on the mountain or something. It's kind of tragic, but 2,000 years later, it's hard to have too much empathy for him. Are the races united under singular rule, or are there separate power structures for each city? Kind of both. Each city operates as its own entity, because communication and travel between them is difficult. It's very difficult, very challenging, and so because of that, each city kind of operates as its own thing. There is a certain regionality to all the different races, but for the most part, basically all of the playable races, just to give it an easy excuse for players to be able to do whatever they want, they all, at the very least, tolerate each other. So it's like there do exist orcs and goblins that like kind of live in some of these cities based on regional things like that. Because when the calamity, as I call it, the unhinging, when that happened, everyone kind of reached the state of like, oh, either we work together or we all die, because things are horrible and terrifying right now. And so because of that, like pretty much everyone kind of agreed, and they all just kind of congregated towards the biggest cities, which would be the easiest ones to defend from all of the craziness happening in the world. So they do kind of, they are united, but it's not under a singular worldwide rule. It's more like each city kind of has its own microcosm of society that operates pretty independently. There are trade caravans where it's like a large, well-guarded caravan will travel along a specific highway between certain cities that are regionally kind of near each other for the sake of trade and communication and stuff like that. But it's there's a whole lot of limitations to that. And so because of that, much of the world is still pretty unreclaimed after the unhinging. But yeah, it's a fun little world, and my players seem to enjoy it, so I keep working with it. That's the most important part, right? We're just a bunch of goofballs having fun, so as long as that's still true, then hard to say that there's anything wrong with the plan as it goes. Let's see here. So money. So we need to come up with a little hoard of treasure here for our players to find. And so this is a situation where instead of reinventing the wheel, let's do loot gen here. I utilize tools that others have created. And so let's see here. These guys are only at level 3, so we'll keep that challenge rating pretty low for them. Usually for the first 5 levels, I use the challenge rating 1 to 4. Unless it's a boss battle, then I might, kip that up a little bit there. We'll roll our loot here, so we'll give them 150 golden coinage. That's a pretty hefty sum for someone to be carrying in their pockets, in their pack. If it was an adventurer, that's a reasonable amount, because this is not the boss battle by any means, so there's still plenty more wealth for them to find. How long does it usually take me to complete a setup for a game? When you say setup, do you mean like writing an entire campaign so that it's ready to go? Like writing an entire campaign from beginning to end, or more so just like prepping for a singular session? Because a singular session, honestly, depending on how lazy I am, can take me as few as 1 or 2 hours to make sure I've got enough material that will carry us through like a 3 to 4 hour session, right? You just got to come up with enough variables, put in a battle in there, have some interesting characters for them to role play with, and that stuff will drag out long enough. You could do a 3 to 4 hour session without a whole lot of work. The entire campaign, it's much slower here on stream because I take the time to sort of discuss things that I'm working on, and people ask questions and we share ideas and stuff, so it's a much slower process here. When I am just being able to focus and just like working on a campaign, and I usually don't make myself finish an entire campaign completely before I start running it. So it's not like I have to sit there and like finish the whole thing before I do it. I'm kind of doing that with this one just because I don't want to be using what I'm writing, so because my players will watch my stream sometimes, and so I don't want them to find secrets and stuff. But if I'm being as meticulous as I am here, but being able to focus on it more, I don't know. I try to carve out maybe an hour a day on average to write. So if we assume 7 hours per week, and it takes me, I could probably get an entire campaign done. Like, we're talking like a full 10 levels worth of campaign. Carry characters from level 1 to level 10. And we're talking completely done. We've fleshed out all of the shops. We've mapped out and fleshed out every single dungeon. Wrote histories for all of our bosses and all of our primary NPCs and stuff, so that it's just like it's all ready to go. I don't have to write a single thing other than the notes. A few months to write one out at 7-ish hours per week spent, sometimes more, sometimes less. I would say if I were really focusing, I could write down at that pace, I could probably complete about 2 campaigns a year if I were really focusing. So realistically, that usually means I finish 1 to 1.5 per year. So, whatever that maths out to. Because granted, like an hour a day when I can carve it out on average isn't a whole lot of time. Um, I mean, if I were, like, say I were to devote, if I were only working on the one campaign, like, that's the thing. I started both of these, this campaign and the one that I'm working on with my players. I've got the one for my players mapped out but not written out. So I'm kind of working on those two simultaneously right now. And I started both of those probably around midsummer. And I fully expect I will have both of them done. I fully expect I will have both of them done by next summer. So a full year spending half of my time I spend writing on any given day, half of my time working on either of those campaigns, so 2 campaigns a year, which I feel like is a pretty good pace altogether, especially since a lot of these campaigns will be able to be played for much longer than that. Yeah, I guess that's kind of it. I don't know. It's really hard to say because it's not. I don't do it professionally, so it's not like I carve out. Okay, definitely my work hours are from this to this, and I'm doing nothing but writing and working on these during that time, so that way I can produce deliverables, right? If it were that type of situation, it would be a lot easier, but it's like a lot of it is very dependent on what's going on in my life, because there's some weeks that I'll hardly write anything at all. And then there's other weeks where I will intentionally use my free time to do even more writing. So it's like that's such a ballpark guesstimate. But yeah, I guess the easiest way to say it is I'm presently working on 2 campaigns that in there, like I've had them fully mapped out now. The one I'm running with my players right now, we've been doing that a long time, but they were brand new players and they weren't exactly sure what type of campaign they wanted to run. So that one started off much more in the sense of like, here's a few random things that I can just kind of throw them hooks at and they can dive into it. And then based on which ones they were getting attached to, I then, this summer was like, okay, so they're really getting into this part of what I provided them because they were new players. I wasn't sure what they wanted. They weren't sure what they wanted. And so once they kind of latched on to a couple main themes and a couple styles of play, I was like, okay, we'll focus writing this campaign on that. And I reached that point sometime around midsummer this year. And like I say, I fully expect that I will have them done sometime next summer, if not sooner. I mean, honestly, they could be done much sooner. But if we use that benchmark, then, to 2 per year, so about a half a year if I were just like focusing with the amount of time I have on a campaign. Different lighting, looks more purple, but it looks nice. Yeah, so the entire background, I don't know, because I've got the camera zoomed in, I rearranged furniture, and so the entire background is a little different now. I'm in a different part of the room. I was tucked in a corner beforehand, which was, I initially did it because I felt like that was the most efficient use of space in the living room. But I noticed last winter living here that it was hard sitting at that desk as much as I do, away from windows. It was away from any windows, and it was a bummer. Especially since I regularly struggle with seasonal affective disorder. So this weekend I had some buddies over and we rearranged the furniture. So I have like a nice big, it's my sliding glass door out to my balcony, is right there. So I can look out at my balcony, see my bird feeders, see the trees out there and everything. So the lighting up front is a little different, which changes the background lighting a little bit. You can see my, wait, hold on, let me get my finger there. Right there, that little corner, that glow right there. That's a little corner of my LED lights that kind of wrap around the room, and you can see those. And I have them presently set to Spooktober purple and orange. So there's like a little patch of purple right there in that corner. That's what you're seeing. So that's why it looks purple. But yeah, I rearranged it, and it's nice. It's a little more crowded in the living room the way I've got it set up, but I don't mind it because it's cozy. And it's just a happier use of space. I'm spending more time right by the window now. I mean, already I much prefer having that right there because when I'm working and I need a minute to just like zone out, I can be like, and there's like beautiful nature as opposed to like that. And then there's just wall, which is what it was beforehand. So, yes, I did change. So thank you for noticing, and thank you. I think it looks good too. But yeah, like next week, I'll probably have a different light in the background. It'll probably look a little different because Spooktober will be done, so I'll have to do something other than the orange and purple motif around here. It'll be Thanksgiving time. which will just be general fall. So I'll probably just stick with just a generalized orange. So I don't know. Something different is always fun to live in until you want to change again. No, absolutely. I was actually talking about that like right when I was doing my beginning of stream rambles. There's something nice about just sort of refreshing your living space by moving things around and having things different. Like it's like an easier way of moving to a fresh new space. You know, I don't do it very often. Like I moved in here into this apartment over 2 years ago, and all of the furniture was still in the original placements. So it was kind of time for a change. It was kind of time for a change in general. So yeah, it does feel refreshed and fun in here, and I'm enjoying it so far. I think the moves and the adjustments were good. So yeah. Excuse me. There we go. All right. I think what we were doing. Oh yeah, we were working on our horde here, and it says 147 gold because that. You know, we're gonna do 147 gold. A lot of times I'll round that. Because I like round even numbers, but you know what? It's more realistic if the guy doesn't have an exact amount of money. It's like he has a little bit of pocket change in there, thrown on top of whatever his gold is. I don't know if you could classify 150 gold as pocket change necessarily. I don't know. It's hard to know because the economy in D&D is kind of weird. Because it's based off of a medieval thing, so a lot of things that we would consider like mundane and cheap nowadays were much less common. One of the best examples that I've ever heard is a discussion about why things that use glass are so expensive in the D&D world. And it's like, it actually makes sense. Like, we consider glass mundane. You know, for when you buy your $2 bottle of jam from the store, it comes in a glass bottle and it's like perfectly formed. So we think of glass as being just this like horribly mundane, boring substance, and it's like, yeah, it's everywhere. It's not special. But back in the day, that was like hand-blown, handmade. Even the smallest, most uninteresting vial of whatever, you know, that had to have been hand-blown by someone. So it's like some guy was sitting there next to a furnace for 3 hours to pump out 10 of these little vials. You know, it's like, and that's how he makes his livelihood. So it's like, yeah, glass is much more expensive, and that's why things like, you know, we can find a good pair of binoculars for, you know, like a decent pair, not like a really good pair, but a decent pair of binoculars for like $20, right? Meanwhile, a telescope, you know, just or like a you know, one of them like telescoping looking glasses, right, that you would use on a ship to be able to make the lenses properly took a lot of specialty expertise. So that's like the equivalent of a couple $100. So it's, I don't know. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Money is weird in D&D, and it makes no sense, which is why I just kind of roll with the rules as written with economy these days. I'll kind of in my head equate 1 gold to being about $10 when I'm just trying to think about, like, how much does food cost at this establishment? Well, it's a pricey joint, so, you know, 15 silver for a meal. That's like $15 for a meal. You know, other than that, it's like, it's money. Just give them a lot and they'll buy what they want and move on. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You don't want to overload them, but for the most part, it's like, you know what? It's understood that your friends, like your players, when they enter this game, they're doing it as, like, the intended heroes. So why not give them the tools that heroes would have? Let's see here. So, in the coin pouch, you find... have kids' telescopes for less than $100. Yeah, exactly. You can find a telescope that'll let you look at the moon craters in detail for like $50-$60, right? It's not going to be that high fidelity stuff, but it's like, yeah, I mean, we could just like throw that crap out there because a machine can make it, and it's like, you know, a machine can pump out 30 of those in 5 minutes, and it's not a big deal. Whereas back in those days, to have something of equivalent ability took one person days to make the glass exactly right and polish it by hand and make the frame that would hold it all in perfect place and have it not look like a kaleidoscope because something shattered inside. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's different. It's an interesting thing to think about, but it's, I don't know, it adds a little perspective to some of the things. In the coin pouch, you find a substantial amount of gold. the coins are strange and not familiar due to their age, but you find the equivalent of 147 gold in these ancient coins. Not coins, coins. Anyways, that's the beauty of like gold standard, is like gold is just gold. You don't have to worry about conversion of that crap. Like, what's $1 to euro? It's all just like crappy paper that refers to a certain amount of money, but it's like gold is gold. You know, this many grams of gold is this many grams of gold. Doesn't matter what shape it's in. Nowadays we're moving towards the Bitcoin standard, apparently. Apparently that crap's here to stay. I don't know if I have the energy to learn how that stuff works, though, to be perfectly honest. I might let that be the first thing that I'm a really old person about and just never really learn properly, unless I'm forced to. I don't know that I see a world where my paycheck comes to me in Bitcoin, though. Much as some people would like it, I don't know. I shouldn't open that can of worms, because the truth of it is I understand very little about it. I do not understand it. Anywho, I live in the world of gold standard here in D&D, so hey, you know what? No problemo. Whatever you do make it for, I appreciate you hanging out for whatever time you do have. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you. Let's see. Okay, you know, before I start working on the next one, we gotta decorate our area here. So let's go in here. We're just decorating this thin little area here, and I'm thinking we're gonna put it like tucked back in that little corner there. So whether they come from here or here, they have to go that way. Could describe it then as like when they go right, because no matter what, they'll enter from here and they'll have to go right based on how they're perceiving it, right? Because they'll look there, so we can see it as left, but that's like stage left, audience right, or whatever. I don't know. Whatever. You understand what I'm saying. Either way, they gotta go this way. So we could do that, but I'm not gonna worry about changing it. Instead, I'm just going to grab a rock that will look a little different. I don't know. I just want to make sure it's a good size. As it's a fine size. Boom. Pack is hidden under that rock. There we go. Do that, and then let's go ahead and just chuck in a bunch of our spider webs and everything, because I do like that aesthetic here. Aesthetic? I don't know. I never really know if I'm pronouncing that word right, to be perfectly honest. Actually, no, we'll leave those to be over, I think. We'll just put it over top. Yeah, that looks good. That's like a good one to just kind of chuck in a corner. Same with this one, actually. Well, actually, never mind. I didn't change my mind about that. I like this one. Maybe over here. Just try to make sure like most of the points of the web are actually like connected to something rather than floating around there. You can just like kind of hand wave it and say like, oh yeah, those ones are suspended from the ceiling. That's what's going on there. But like, I don't know. If I can take the time to make it look nice, maybe I'll just do it that way, right? Might as well make it look nice while we can. Let's see here. I'm just gonna make that one a little bit thicker. Actually, you know what we can do? We can have that be not exactly perfectly lined up, so that way it's kind of a mess there. That looks okay. That looks okay. I'll accept it. I'll accept it. It doesn't need to be perfect. Don't need all of them to be perfect. Just most of them. No, I don't. I don't spend too much time expecting perfection out of myself, though I always strive for it. That looks good enough, honestly. It'll do just fine. I'll zoom out a little bit. So this next area is an outdoor area. What types of stuff are we going to see? Okay, so there's an easy battle to be found there. Oh, that's right, and this is a key, and all of the keys are hidden outside under those like key rocks. They've got rocks. That's how the giants hide their keys. They put them under a rock and be like, there. Hidden. Well done. Go team. There we go. Okay, so let's see here. easy battle. Let's figure out what type of monsters are going to be part of this battle here. Did do one where it was lots of weasels, but this is an outdoor one, so we can go ahead and utilize some of our elk and our goats, which will help. We need to come up with 230 experience points worth of battle. Could do that as we could just have that be honestly 5 of these elk. If we do 5 elk for one of them, and I think we're gonna have one more that's gonna be an easy battle, and we can do 2 goats, and that'll be a good way to use them because the 5 elk will put us a little over our budget, and the 2 goats will put us under it. I think that'll work out well. So let's say for this, let's say there's 5 elk sitting here. Let's see here. So as you, no, I want that capitalized. As you wander around to the back of the shrine, you find yourself tumbling over. You find yourself almost tripping. That's what I want to say. Almost tripping over a small group of elk. Though small group of elk, let's say, grazing for what few weeds and grasses are surviving in the corner of this building where the wind is reduced from what is in the surrounding areas. Let's see, these elk don't necessarily seem like the aggressive type. Seem like the aggressive type, but you've definitely startled them, and they are in full fight or flight mode. Unfortunately, let's see here. Unfortunately, you are blocking their flight path, leaving them but one option. Boom, there we go. Alright. So it'll be 5 of the elk. Yeah, and that's all we need. So there we go. 5 elk. 5 elk just hanging out back there. Hanging out there, not really wanting to fight, but hey, you know what? You scared them, and you're accidentally not giving them a way out. So a fight it will be. Thinking about my players fighting the elk just makes me think though of it's not an elk, it's a reindeer, but the one Arnold Schwarzenegger Christmas movie, Jingle All the Way, where he punches a reindeer that's charging him, and then the next scene it shows the 2 of them sitting there sharing a beer. He's like pouring a beer into the bowl for the reindeer to be drinking while he's throwing one back. That movie's an underrated gem. Fight me if you disagree. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's not. It's not a technically great movie, but it is a hilarious movie that is really fun to watch, and I make sure I watch it every Christmas. Okay, so key. Yeah. Let's see here. One thing. Okay, I know I said I wasn't gonna go back, but I'm not going back. I'm just noticing something that's right there and easy to fix. So we're gonna just go ahead and color it red. I'm using that red there. That looks fine. There we go. Okay, so this one, I want to do the same thing here. Let me get my text the right color here. Boom. Perception. DC. No, not DK. DC 11 there. Yep, that works. Alright, perception DC 11. In the corner of this small courtyard. Oops, I don't want that underlined. Why is that underlined? Why did I do that? Why didn't you guys stop me from doing that? All right. Oops, no, and I forgot to change the font color too. Okay, that one's on me. I'll cop to that one. um, Tucked in the corner of this small courtyard-like area is a conspicuous pile of rocks. Certainly, you're on a mountain, and there are many rocks to be found. My goodness, found. But this particular pile seems a little too intentionally piled up in the corner. As you toss the rocks aside, you quickly find that they were piled on top of a key. Find that they were piled on top of a key, as if hidden by a dim creature who understands that hiding means keeping something out of sight, but doesn't understand that it needs to be natural for people to not notice. It's a run-on sentence, but it amuses me to think of, like, just describing it. Like, because just describing that to players amuses me. Just saying, like, yeah, you see a pile of rocks, and as you're pulling it aside, there's a key hidden there, as if, like, someone obviously understood the concept of hiding to be keep it out of sight, but not in the sense of, but don't call attention to it. You know, it's the same effect as when you have, like, the kid who tries to hide under the blankets in bed, and so this, like, perfectly made bed with, like, a child-sized lump is there, right? Or they're hiding behind the curtains, you can see their little feet poking out. It's like that type of situation where it's like they get the fundamentals, but the nuances are still a little beyond them. That's how these giants hide their keys. They have the idea, but the execution needs a little work. Anyway, let's go ahead and decorate this one. This one is easy. We're just throwing some rocks around. I really just want to, like, make it really obvious that there are, like, a lot of rocks thrown up in this corner here. Really piled up there, really piled up. And, like, what's actually gonna make it even better? Watch this, watch this. So we'll do, I don't know, I guess that's actually a perfectly fine pile of rocks there. We'll do that. But then this whole area is going to be conspicuously clear of other rocks. Because, like, you know, you come over here and you see, like, other random small piles of rocks. Like, they hid this one a little bit better, right? It's like one rock doesn't match, but it's like they had just one big rock that they put over it. And that actually worked better because it's like, oh, it's just a big rock. You know, it doesn't look like a big rock that's hiding something. It's just a big rock. It just is different because it's like, it looks like it belonged over there, and now it's over there. Like, they took a big rock from somewhere and put it there. This one is going to be more like, yeah, no, they just threw every small rock in this whole area on top of that pile. And it looks weird, because then you don't see any other rocks except for, like, up over here. And this is actually tickling me quite a bit. I'm quite amused with this concept. Which is how I make most of my decisions for D&D writing. What concepts amuse me and make it fun? So we'll put, like, another collection of just, like, a couple rocks here. Do something like that right there. Maybe just, like, one stray rock right there. Right, that's perfect. It's perfect. Just all of them. All of them scooped up and poured over this one key. That's like, because that's like in the giants' minds. They're so simple. That's how they think hiding works. They're like, hey, the more rocks I put here, the better hidden it is. They'll never see it under like 15 rocks. You think one rock is enough to not be able to see under. Try like 20 rocks. Like now that's hidden. Like it'd almost be better if they were like the key was on the ground. Like the key's on the ground here, right? Yeah, I just realized you can't see me doing stuff on the desk. The key's on the ground. Put a rock over top of it, and then rock, and just keep doing the rocks over top, so you have this tower of rocks. And it's like, that stands out. That'd be really funny, because just their thought process is like, oh, it's under the rock, so I can't see the key. So if you get like 10 rocks all stacked up, that's like 10 times you can't see it. It's perfect. I love it. Okay, I think that works perfect. All right, onto room 5. Let's see. Okay, so this one need all 3 keys to open the exit. So this one's gonna be a little unique in how we write it here. So there's a hard battle in here. Let's see here. Yeah, and it's otherwise empty, so it's just like big collective of animals. Let's figure out exactly what's going to be in here. So this is a hard battle, so we need to have 700 experience worth of monsters in here. The basilisk we're saving, because that's going to be our final boss in the next segment of this dungeon, so we don't want to put that one in there quite yet. But we can work with our goats and our elk. So we could just go with 7 goats, which is fine. But I actually think it would be more fun in this area for there to be a bit more challenge, and we can achieve that by utilizing a lot of elk. So that way we can really take advantage of the action economy that elk would offer. So if it would take 7. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. If it would take 7 goats at 100 experience a pop, then we can do 6 goats and 2 elk, which would give us 8. We could do 5 goats and 4 elk, which would give us 9. Or we could do 4 goats and 6 elk, which would give us 10 enemies and our 700 experience points. And I think that's what I want to do, because that'll make this almost like a pseudo boss fight, just because that action economy, having 10 fairly challenging enemies for them to face, because this is a level 3 dungeon, that's going to be a significant battle for them. They can certainly handle it. They can certainly handle it without it being an issue. But it won't be trivial. It won't be trivial for them. So I think that's how I want to do it. And like I say, it hinges on that action economy quite a bit. So I want to do, what did I say? It was going to be 4 goats, 4x, giant goat, and 6 elk. That's perfect. You know what, the one thing that I haven't been doing that I really should be doing, just to make it easier for myself, because I try to at the very least at the end of each session give my players whatever experience points, because I like using the experience points. I know conventionally more people use milestone, and that is easier. But I'm a fan of like the nitty-gritty detailed type stuff, so I force my players to deal with the fact that I like that, and I insist upon us doing experience points. I mean, the other thing about it too is I use experience points to help sort of balance that challenge rating and make sure that combats are an appropriate level of difficulty experience points, because it's kind of systematically methodically figured out within the rules. It's a very useful tool in figuring that stuff out. So if I've already gone through the trouble to math it out exactly on how much experience points to find in this area or that area, I might as well give it to them that way. And then the way that I balance that is just, if there are sessions that are really roleplay heavy but they still accomplish some good stuff, I'll do something along the lines of like, you know what, they accomplished this, that, and the other thing. Each one of those things I would say is worth a battle, like basically whatever level they're in. It's like, oh, I would say it's worth that difficulty of battle, so here's that much experience points for you guys to gain. You know, so it's like if they're level 3 and I'm like, you know what, those are some pretty challenging conversations that you had, and you were able to convince people of stuff that helped you out. Because we'll equate that to one hard battle, which would have 700 experience points. So the 5 of you can split 700 experience points. So the 5 of you each get, like, I don't know, 150 experience points or something for figuring that stuff out. And that helps balance and make sure that they feel rewarded for being clever in the roleplay side of things too. You know, if they solve a puzzle that doesn't have a battle associated with it, it'd be like, you know, that was a pretty easy puzzle, but it was a puzzle nonetheless. So all of you guys can split, you know, X number of experience points. You know, in this situation would be 230 experience points. You guys can all split that. You know, that's just how I like to run things. Grain of salt, whatever works for you and your party, do it that way. You know, I like doing it this way, but it's not the only way to do it. Sorry, I wanted to be silent for a second there. One of the things when I moved my furniture, the intake for my furnace and my AC unit is literally right next to the desk. And it just kicked on, and so I wanted to make sure it wasn't so loud that the mic would pick it up, and it does not seem to be picking it up. I'm going to be quiet for another second here. No, there's no response on the mic, so that's primo, excelente. Makes me very happy. Because now I don't have any reason to feel awkward about this, except for my the one thing that will be a challenge about it is that because my desk is right next to the vent, I will have to slide my entire desk out anytime the office staff has to come in and change our vent filters, but it only happens like once a year, so I'll deal with it. Deal with it on those days, and it won't be a big deal. Anywho, those elk worth 50 XP a piece. I just do it. I do it as XP a piece. You know what I could do though? I could do total XP. I could just like put it right in here, put the XP. So 9 times 50, so that would be 450 XP. I could do it that way. I could start doing that, and that's really not intrusive. And it puts that total there, so that way I can save myself a bit of time and a bit of math there. So the giant weasels are worth 25 a pop? Yeah. 25 a pop goes the weasel. Thank you for indulging my pun. I apologize for any damage it did to your psyche. So 9 times 25, that ends up being 225. Yeah, so you just do like the total experience price or something. That actually makes a whole lot of sense to do that. 250 XP. Yeah, that makes just a ridiculous amount of sense to do it that way. I can't believe I didn't think about that sooner, but you know, hindsight's 20/20 and all that. Yeah. Okay. And then so the elk were again 50 XP pop. Boom. This one, elk, 50 XP here. And then the giant goats are worth 100 XP. That's beautiful right there. Okay. As you walk into the main hall of this building, you can immediately tell that this was a place designed by and for giants. The vaulted ceilings rise high around you, tall enough to fit tall enough to fit at least a 2-story home underneath. Let's see here. The hall is a wide open space. From your perspective, with the walls spreading out. Is it a full 100 feet? How wide do these spread? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 70. So we'll say nearly 100 feet. Just so you get that. Let's see here. Wall spreading nearly 100 feet apart. All feet apart. Where's my cursor? What is happening right now? My goodness, my clumsy fingers. My clumsy fingers. So yeah, spreading nearly 100 feet apart. Massive shares are scattered around, suggesting that some sort of sermon may be recounted here. But there's no discernible sense of organization, as the chairs are just scattered. There it is, all around. Oh, excuse me, pardon my yawn. Oh man, I promise I'm not bored or unhappy here. It's a gloomy day outside. Alright, let's see here. In this room, you also see many elk and goats wandering around, having figured out that these walls offer substantial protection from the outside winds. The territorial animals don't seem too excited about losing much of their space to these new interlopers, and appear ready to challenge you, to force you to leave. So that's what it is. They're just like oh, I see what happened here. Just need to be come on. Boom, we need that right there. That'll help formatting there. Correct, okay. Yeah, so yeah, the animals are literally kind of doing this room ain't big enough for the two of us. It's like, they're all like, no, you back off, it's our turf. But the players will be like, no, and they will stay the course and they will kill everything in sight. Which is fine, because that's what the game is, and that's what I'm providing them, opportunities to kill everything in sight. Let's see here. There is little of interest in this room other than the large doors at the far end of it. Let's see, there's little of interest in this room other than the large doors at the far end of it. If you try the doors, let's see, actually that's here. These doors appear to be locked. Let's see here. How many keys did I have in here? Was it 3 of them total? Key to 9, key to 5, and key to 7, yes. These doors appear to be locked with simple yet sturdy locking, let's see here, with a simple yet sturdy locking mechanism. We'll say a large bar has been through 3 brackets that are hooked to the door. The bar is attached to the brackets with simple locks that 3 brackets. Okay, so the not the par, the bar is attached to the brackets with simple, with we'll say three simple locks. Each lock needs a different key that is hidden somewhere around here. Oh, excuse me. Boom. There we go. Okay, there's one thing that I need to check and make sure I didn't do wrong. No, I did not. Okay. Let's see here. We got key. Okay, so this one needs a key. Okay, so I need to really quickly here. Let's put this in red here. This door is locked unless the key in area 10 has been found. That's what I want to do right there. I just want to add that little note there to remind myself to not let them open that up too soon. So that's perfect. He lives hidden somewhere around this shrine. And then I'm not going to explicitly tell them because the keys that open this door are the same as the keys that open all the other doors. It's just the difference is you need all 3 of them for this situation. But I'm not going to explicitly tell that to players. That's for them to puzzle through and for them to think to have their characters check and try it, right? Because that's a very simple puzzle. That's the type of puzzle, and this actually kind of came up with one of my buddies, one of my players this weekend. Sort of discussing how to add challenges that both challenge your players as well as the characters, right? Because you do want to provide puzzles that your players need to figure out on behalf of your characters, right? Because that gives them the opportunity to, use their own knowledge that they're gaining as players, their own sort of meta knowledge. But you also don't want to block parts of the game. You don't want to block their progress. Based on their personal knowledge. And it's not because we assume that our players are dumb, although my players are a bunch of dumb idiots. Got you guys. I don't know if they're watching right now, but maybe they'll watch the VOD and it'll be funny then. No, I love my players. It's not about making sure that things are easy enough to figure out for the players themselves. Isn't about assuming their smarts. It's about recognizing that it's easier for us for me as the DM when I'm writing a puzzle, when I'm writing a riddle, when I'm creating a challenge. It may seem easy for me to the process of figuring it out and succeeding may seem easy to me, right? It might be something that just seems very obvious. It's like, no, this makes perfect sense. They should be able to figure this out without any issue, right? And so it's like, and so we tend to think like, oh, well, I should make this more difficult because I don't want them to figure it out right away. But the thing we forget the thing that we just don't realize, that we tend to forget, is that we already know the answer. It is much easier to logic through a puzzle when you know what the answer is. When you know what the final product is supposed to be, right? It's like, imagine you're doing a math problem, right? And it's on the computer, so the computer will tell you if you got the right or wrong answer. Oh, excuse me. If you're given the right answer and you just have to plug in the right variables, right, in an algebraic sort of way to get to that answer, if you already know what the answer is and you just have to plug in the right variables, that's a lot easier than if you need to figure out the right variables and then hope that the answer that gets spit out is the correct one, right? It's like the difference between knowing the equation and not knowing the equation. Maybe that's a better way to say it. If you know the equation, then you can plug in the bits that will then spit out the right answer. If you don't know the equation, you can guess everything you want. It'll be really hard for you to get that right answer, right? And so you want to think about that with your players. If we already know what the answer is, it's really easy for us as the DM to understand, like, oh yeah, you can plug in these variables because that's what the equation is, right? We know what the equation is and we know what the answer is. If they don't know what the answer is or the equation, they're relying on you to give them that understanding of at least what the equation is, right? Even if that doesn't give them the right answer. And so, I don't know, this is kind of rambling, and I don't know if it makes a whole lot of sense, but I guess what I'm trying to say is recognize as a DM that it will be easier for you to see the logic and the conclusion behind some sort of riddle or challenge for your players because you already know what the intended end result is. You already know what the success state is. So it's very easy for you to think about, like, directly, oh, I need to go there. But if your players don't know what that end success state is, it is really hard to figure that out. You know, it's really easy to figure out directions to get to the store when you know that you're going to the store. When you don't even know that you're going to the store, it's really hard to know what the proper directions are when you're getting in the car, right? If you're getting in the car and you don't know your destination, it can be just a matter of luck if you start going in the right direction. So it's important to remember that. And that's why my puzzles, when it depends on player knowledge, not character knowledge, but player knowledge, is very simple things, right? So like this one, I'm not too worried about them figuring this challenge out in terms of what keys are needed to open the doors, right? Because they know they need 3 keys, and they will also know that there are 3 locked doors elsewhere in this dungeon. 3 and 3, that's a pretty, they know what the solution is. They know they're trying to get through there with keys. And then at some point in time, they'll realize they have 3 keys, and they'll probably try them. It's a really simple thing. But, it's, I can already immediately see them thinking like, oh, we need to find 3 other keys. Guys, we got to go back and search every other room when they already have the 3 keys. They just haven't started it, right? So it's good to keep things simple. And like I say, to bring it back, we were discussing this with player knowledge. If something is dependent on player knowledge as opposed to character knowledge, there are 2 ways you can go to make sure that they aren't punished for them as players not being clever. Because it's always, I think, important to assume that a character will have a naturally higher intelligence about their world because their character lives in that world. We are only visiting through our imaginations, right? So if something is going to depend on a player's knowledge, not just a character's knowledge, there are 2 ways to do it. 1, keep it real simple, real straightforward for them to be able to just sort of think like, oh, is it a riddle? Do we need to say something like this? And then like you just kind of yes and your way through it, right? So if you provide a riddle and they're like, oh, is the answer something like this? If it's close enough, you accept it, or at least let them know it's close enough. If that isn't an option, right? If it's just a matter, if there needs to be a very specific answer, they're just not getting it. Excuse me, I apologize. That's when you make sure that the puzzle is easy enough for their characters to insight, perception, sleight of hand their way through, right? And so it's like I'll utilize a lot. So for this puzzle, for example, this like figuring out this locked door, probably what I'll say to them is, describe the door, and if they're sitting there puzzling about it, I'll say, and they're like, well, do we need to find 3 more keys? I think we must have to find 3 more keys because these keys already go to these doors, right? And if they're like stuck on that train of thought, I will then pipe in with something along the lines of, can I have each of you just give me a generalized intelligence check? And then as long as someone gets double digits in total with their intelligence checks, I'll say like, something occurs to you that while a lock only has 1 key, a key may match multiple locks, and you kind of feed them that little bit. So then it's like their character figured it out. So players will still kind of feel that sort of like, oh, we missed the opportunity. But you're not blocking them off from success, right? You can still have success because there's still that backup way for their characters to have that knowledge. So I don't know. I don't really know exactly what the upshot is of that TED Talk is. It's just something that I thought of, and it was something that was topical because we talked about it at our last session with my players. It was kind of a discussion that kind of came up and the reason why is because one of my players designed a one-shot, and so we were all playing, and so largely it was really awesome. I had so much fun with it. But you know, it was a really early attempt, and so there were some things that were a little clunky, and that was kind of one of the things where it was like success depended completely on the player knowledge, and the player just wasn't quite sure what the DM was looking for, right? So he was doing his best, and there was some really awesome role playing. It was a lot of fun, but he didn't meet the success thing, so he missed out on a certain fun Easter egg or something like that. And so it was one of those things where it's like, you know, make sure you write in a backup plan so that way character benefits aren't blocked by a player struggling to understand what a DM is after, right? So always kind of have that bailout plan of like your character, of the characters being able to roll to find success, and vice versa. If you need players to get, or if you need your characters to get through a door, and the DC for lockpicking it is like 15 because it's supposed to be really tough, make sure there's a backup plan for that. Make sure there's another hidden passageway through that door. So if your players can fail, you can just say like, nope, you'll have to find another way in. And you give them that little hint, and they're like, oh, okay, maybe, so our characters can't unlock this door. Maybe we can still get in. Or alternatively, if there's just no other way in, right? If it's like, yeah, you need to make it across this canyon, and it's like either you make it across this canyon or you walk 7 days to the sea, and then like on the beach go across and then walk back, right? It's like, you know, unless you want to do that, give them the option of like, oh yeah, like, and they try to think of ways that they can get across that canyon. You know, the bridge is damaged or something like that, or there's like a rope bridge, but they just like fail and the thing snaps and everyone's still barely alive. Make sure there's a bailout, like, you know, a little ways away there's a guy, a guy who's a magician who can magic up a ladder to get you guys across for the right price, you know. Or it's like if they go a little ways down, they can see some vines hang off the end that if they use those, they can climb down the canyon, walk across, and then mountain climb the way back up, right? So there's still like challenges, but there's bailout options for them to get past there, right? There are ways for them to get across, you know, to get past those barriers. Just always make sure that if something is going to include a component of player knowledge, there is still a character knowledge escape route, and vice versa, right? The other thing about vice versa is if the players, or rather the characters, fail a roll to unlock a door or something like that, it takes less work to be prepped for it. You can just kind of you can resort to yes and. They say like, okay, well that won't work, and they're like, okay, well is there like a window, you know, or a crack in the wall or something like that we can sort of use as a way to bust our way in. And in that situation, you would just say like, no, there's you know, as you're feeling the wall, as you start to look for that, you find a loose stone that you suspect might be a way to, you know, sort of bust a hole in the wall and you can go through. Just something like that. Just make sure you have bailout plans. And that's like with these ones, each lock, you know, with the locks and keys, the bailout plan is really just to make sure that if their players don't figure it out right, have the characters roll an intelligence check, and whoever has the highest is like, you're hit by a bit of inspiration and you realize that keys can sometimes unlock multiple locks, and then they will go and try it, right? So I don't know. Like I said, thanks for coming to my TED Talk, I guess. I don't know. I didn't really intend to talk about that one for like 15 minutes or however long it's been, but it's just been on my mind. It's been on my mind since that session this past weekend. Anyway, that is hidden somewhere on the shrine, and we'll just leave it at that, and it'll be up to them to figure that out. So okay, so I'm looking at the time. It is almost 1:30. I am going to go ahead and take my break like I usually do. It's usually about a 15-20 minute break, just to kind of rest my voice and get myself prepped up, because I'm going to be back after that break to do some right now we're playing through American Truck Simulator. I was intending to really only play that game last week, but a lot of busyness happened in my life, and I wasn't able to stream it hardly at all last week. And I also was not able to think of what other game I want to play afterwards, because American Truck Simulator is just our interim between Mass Effect 3 and some other more long-form RPG, because that's what I'm kind of leaning towards doing with all of my gaming streams. So yeah, so I'm going to take a break so we can then come back and play that for a little bit. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for all the people who stopped by. We're asking questions, had some good discussion about writing our campaign here. I know it was a little shorter one. Like I say, it was challenge to make sure everything was all set up now that I've kind of rearranged my furniture and everything here. But no, it was a good session, and I appreciate it. Streaming this week, I'll make sure and put an announcement up. Usually I stream at the same times, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. This week, tomorrow, Tuesday, I have to be out of town for work, so I will not be able to be here to stream like I would normally do. So because of that, no streaming tomorrow. I am going to try and make up for it and stream on Wednesday, but there's never any promises about that. It really depends on my work schedule, my personal schedule. Depends a lot, because Wednesdays are not usually a stream day, so I can't count on them to be a stream day, because that's usually the day I set aside for other things. So if other things are in the way, then there won't be a stream on Wednesday. But if they are not in the way, then it will be a stream, and it'll be great. So that's what's coming up in my world. I think that's all I got. The only other announcements are just always there's the YouTube channel and the Discord channel. Please feel free to check those out if you're interested. The YouTube channel is kind of a mess. I'm trying to be better about that, but it's a slow learning process because I only have so much time in my life to work on these things. I do want to do more with that YouTube channel, but that is a long-term project for when I have time throughout the winter. But the Discord channel is alive, a bit more active. People share different homebrew ideas. We have discussions about things that people share on there. It's really cool. It's really fun. It's a growing community. I put a lot of announcements about my streams up there too, so that's a good way to stay up to date with what I'm doing and what my stream schedule is and all that kind of stuff. So check those out if you're interested. Otherwise, yeah, thanks again so much for everyone who stopped by. If you're gonna hang out and watch me do some truck driving, then I will see you in like 15-20 minutes. Otherwise, hopefully I will see you Wednesday, or if not, then Thursday. But yeah, regardless of the next time I see you, take care of yourselves, and I will be back shortly. Thanks for joining me on my writing adventures today.